Hello and welcome to the next episode, the next lesson, the next installment, I guess, of Cylinder Radio. Today I have Sasha Daygame. He is a comedian. He's a dating trainer. He's the founder of the Infinite Man Summit. He's kind of hard to fit into a box, so I'm going to have him kind of introduce that to everybody. But we're going to be talking about social anxiety, dating, things like that today on the podcast. Sasha, thank you so much. I've been trying to get you on here because I think that you've done some really interesting and important things that I've just seen, out on the interwebs. So thank you for meeting me. We're like halfway, we're across the world from each other. So thank you for doing this today.
My pleasure.
So tell the audience a little bit about, who you are. What makes you an expert in social anxiety and stuff? You must have like a ton of PhDs and stuff in this area.
I must. That's right. I must have a wall full of plaques because the only way someone could have value in this world would be some organization to give them that value, right, with a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Well, you pretty much said it there yourself. When people ask me, what do you do? It's always really hard to go, well, I'm this because, I'm me. And me is not, you can't really put this one in a box. I don't think anyone could be put in a box, actually, because we're all unique souls with so many different gifts and talents, and you know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. Yeah. But let's see. So originally, comic. That was really, if you asked me 20 years ago, who are you? I'd just be like, I'm a comedian, and that was really my identity. And that was a really good time from age 17 to like 32. I was doing stand-up comedy all over the world. That was really fun. But I had a really traumatic childhood. I don't want to make people cry, but I had no love as a kid, really kind of semi-psycho mom who was quite abusive, didn't have a father figure. So in my 20s, even though I was doing stand-up comedy and I managed to, push myself through that fear, I really was super, super awkward and shy when it came to women. As any guy you can imagine in their 20s, I liked women a lot. And I just absolutely could not bring myself to just come up to a girl and just say like nothing. I was really, really, really bad, really super shy. And it was killing me. It's really hard being out there in this world with just lonely without a woman in your life. It's tough. And, and like a lot of guys, I started studying, got into pickup. There was all these guys writing these ideas, tactics. You can say this or wear these clothes or tell this interesting story and then girls will like you and all this stuff. A lot of it was manipulative. It didn't really kind of jive with me. And so I tried something a little bit different than most people. And rather than going down to the club or getting drunk to work up the courage to speak to some cute ladies, I decided because some part of me was like, I'm going to do something different. I went on the street and I literally started walking around and I just decided I'm just going to be honest and I'm going to come up to women that I think are attractive and I'm just going to tell them. I'm just going to be like, hey, what's up? You're super cute. Can I get your number? Or whatever. Yeah. And I just started doing all those kind of things. And to my surprise, it worked. Women, not all girls were interested, but the ones that weren't were really nice to me. They'd say, "Oh, that's really sweet. I have a boyfriend. I'm not interested." And I'd be like, "Okay, cool." But they were really flattered. And other women were really interested, and they'd be like, "Yeah, let's go get a drink. Let's get a juice or whatever." And I ended up like on this crazy roller coaster ride. I ended up polyamorous, dating multiple women, like really amazing women. I ended up teaching all this stuff to other people. I wrote a book about it, and I ended up for like 10 plus years, literally going around the world teaching guys that you don't have to settle for being single, or you don't have to settle for getting hammered going into a club to meet women. You can actually just be who you are and approach women and just be authentic and just be okay with your sexual intention. And it's okay to be rejected. It's okay. No matter what happens. The important thing is that you're expressing yourself honestly. And so that was crazy because no one had done that before. No one had actually put up videos on the internet of like, hey, here's me just walking up to women and flirting with them, and some of them like me, some of them don't. It just hadn't happened. So that kind of kicked off a whole sub-trend in pickup called Daygame, which now is everywhere. People are running, there's all kinds of courses and people teaching it. But I was the guy who kind of like put a video of me doing that first, so people realized it was possible. So that was a big part of my life. And then I moved on from that because, it was all about getting sex, frankly. And it doesn't mean you can't use those skills to meet someone and have a genuine long connection, but the whole pickup industry, it's really about going out there and sleeping with as many women as you can. And I'm just not into that. It's not authentic for me. So now I just teach guys I'm just coming at it from a much deeper place now, because for the last few years, I just went on this huge spiritual journey about really going deeper. Like, who am I really? What's my purpose? What am I doing here? These kind of questions. and helping guys just much deeper. Get the relationship, but get the freedom, get the fearlessness in your life, so you can go for everything you want in life. And that's what I picked up on during my courses. Is like guys would get that fearlessness, and they'd be able to talk to beautiful women. But after they got the girlfriend, guess what? Well, they would apply that fearlessness in other parts of their lives. So they would then go and quit that shitty job because they realize, well, if I can get this beautiful, if I can have the courage and face my fears and come up to this beautiful girl and ask for her number and ask whatever, why can't I quit my job and start that business that I've been postponing for years? Why can't I have the lifestyle where I travel around the world doing whatever I want? Why can't I do anything? So actually, it was like a domino effect. And I realized if you really dominate, if you overcome fear in any one area of your life, it actually spreads like a virus to every other area of your life. So once I got that, and I kept seeing the same thing happen, all these students of mine, they'd get the girlfriend, but then they'd quit their job, they'd start businesses. And I keep getting emails from like clients who are like, hey, I'm living in Thailand with my girlfriend with my online business. And I'd be like, really? What happened? And they just tell me the same story. I just realized I could do whatever I wanted, that fear was an illusion. And once they, it was crazy. So once I just evolved and I started the Infinite Man Summit, and now we help guys get all of it: health, wealth, relationships, purpose. That's what I'm here to do. I help everybody as much as I can. And the other main thing that I discovered was the social freedom aspect. Oh, wait, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Okay. They're recording in the other room, so I gotta not be too loud. Bad timing, apparently. You and me and them. So the big secret here that most people don't realize is what I would do on these courses is I would show guys that the little voice in their head that's telling them like, oh, you can't go talk to that girl. That girl, she's going to reject you. You're not good enough. All this kind of bullshit. I showed them that voice is not them, and I put guys on purpose into situations where they would challenge that voice, right? So uncomfortable situations where they would be judged by others, and it feels like you're going to die in those situations, but actually you don't die. You don't die. You come out of it and you go, wait a minute, I just did something. I just came up to a girl with like food all over my face and hit on her badly, and she still liked me and gave me her phone number, and I thought I would be laughed at. Oh, that's weird. And after just spending all this time putting guys in these brutal situations, people they realize that they're not that voice in their head. They realize that they're not the ego. They realize nothing bad happens, even if people judge you or don't like you or think you're an asshole. So what?
Yeah, even if you get rejected. Like a big part of confidence, I teach high school, like, young boys, especially, but girls too, are struggling with confidence. Confidence isn't, this is probably like a meme, but like confidence isn't that you're going to be great at everything. It's that you'll be okay if you're not. Like it's how to deal with failures, and I'm sure when you even just went out and to do this stuff on your own, you got rejected a lot, and you were just like, oh, well, that wasn't, my whole world didn't collapse. What I see from young people is they build it up so much in their heads. Oh, I'm going to ask this girl out. I'm going to ask her out this way, and then I'm going to do this. And they get everything perfect. And then they ask her out, and she's like, no, gross, get away from me. I mean, it is crushing. It just wipes them out. And, that's because it's so new. You've been building it up. It's just like you're 0 for 1, as opposed to, and I think that there are critics, and I'm glad you pointed out about like, pickup training or the pickup industry and stuff like that, that it isn't, I don't know. It's not good, for lack of a better term, because it's all, it's very shallow and it's trying to use people for sex and things like that. But there is something in the practice, not of like, messing with people's emotions and hearts, but like in the practice of going after what you want. And, what really is going to make you more attractive is, like the classic things like being kind and being upfront and looking people in their eyes and things like that. Like that stuff matters. But especially in today's day and age where we have, you just swipe and everything's done online, that even the rejection is not felt very much. Because if you just say like, hey, type to someone, hey, you want to go out sometime? And they say no, there's a lot of barriers there. It's like, oh, okay. It's not a real rejection. Right?
Yeah, man, it's turning us into not like robots, really. Like people, we're not feeling anymore. And that's the thing. You're not feeling anything because it's not real. Online isn't real. That authentic connection is really looking someone in the eye and feeling that energy between you. It's like online dating. It's horrible, man. It's like it's the magic between two people connecting is when you meet each other and there's that energy. You can feel it in the presence. There's all human beings are connected, but when you're in front of somebody, you're feeling into them on a really, really deep level. It's really, really profound. And so sometimes, you meet someone and you just feel that chemistry and you're like, oh my God, there's something here. And sometimes there isn't. But it's part of it's not even like a man thing. It's just, as a human being, you should be able to feel that connection and be able to express it and say, hey, I like you. You're cool. We have something here. Do you want to go and get a coffee and just hang out more and get to know each other? It's like the most natural thing in the world. But the thing is, it takes a lot of work on yourself to get to that place of self-acceptance and self-love where you will feel okay with yourself no matter what the other person says. That's the thing. And so this isn't something that's being taught in schools. It's not being taught anywhere, that actually how you feel about yourself and your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship. It's not about what your teachers think about you. It's not about what your parents think about you. It's not about what society thinks about you. In fact, all those things are irrelevant and actually in the way of your own personal development. The only person that actually matters, whose judgment actually matters, is how you feel about yourself. And when you get that relationship right, all the other relationships fall into place because you have self-respect, you have sovereignty, you know who you are, and you're living your life on your terms. That's what it's about. That's what real personal development is about.
Yeah. And I think that, with online dating or, social media and stuff, I think you can connect because I have a social media now for teaching and stuff up. I have a lot of friends. I know people who met online and stuff like that. You can, but the structure is set up for you not to have personal connection. So you almost have to go against the structure in order to get it, which is, more difficult to do. Okay. So the way that I found you, Sasha, is there was a video on YouTube. I'm, going to a lot of social science. I teach social studies and stuff like that. That said, the headline was, or the title was, "Men are better than women at some things." And it was just a very basic man on the street type of video where you went up to just random people in like New York or something. And you said, can you name some things that women are just inherently better at than men? And people would say, listen, and can you name a few things that men are inherently better at than women? And people just couldn't come up with something, or they wouldn't come up with something. One woman cried. Like it was really interesting from just a social science standpoint. And then at the end, you kind of broke it down. And that's what I was like, wow, this guy is pretty good. And he broke it down about, how what's going on in society where we can't even recognize things that are very basic in biology and just reality. That, what's going on. And that gets me to like why I started the podcast and stuff is, the way that we're being taught, whether it's in schools or in society, it's not showing us reality. I just had James Lindsay on the podcast, and, he did a lot of study in this, social justice education. And it's not helping us. So that's how I found you. And I think that we're really on something. I think we can dive in a little bit to the idea of social anxiety and anxiety in general. I have been teaching high school for like 14 years. I've seen 13 or 14 years. I've seen a drastic increase in how many kids say that they have anxiety or on meds, et cetera. And it's crippling anxiety. It's a lot. So what do you attribute that to? And what is like the steps to get to where you seem very confident? You seem like, whether it's talking to a girl or talking to someone or just like expressing who you are as a person. There's a lot for you I'm throwing out there, but I just want you to talk for a little bit. Is even like you deciding to go to like pickup training is something that guys are like, no, I wouldn't do that. That's something only losers who can't meet girls would do. And it's like, oh, okay, but like what got you to be where you're at if you started from somewhere that was so different? I know there's a lot there, but just curious on your thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big question as to why we're there. Yeah. And I think it's my best guess would be that nobody really has any of the real answers, because I don't think anybody's really gone down the rabbit hole, because I don't think the system that we're in has been created the way it has been to help people. Like you said it already, it hasn't been made in a way that helps people authentically connect with themselves, find out who they are, get comfortable with their intentions, sexual and otherwise, and connect with other people. Actually, I believe the world we're living in now has been kind of set up in a way where people don't connect with each other, because that's where all the power comes from. Everybody knows, like on the deepest level, the real power comes from your connection with your community. That's actually where power comes from. Communities that are really linked together and working towards a goal. They've done amazing things throughout history, even in our modern area, whether it be stopping certain companies coming in and destroying the environment or whatever. There's real power in community. And when you really have that support and that love, you can really accomplish great things, including standing up to governments or corporations. They don't want that. They want people alone and single and frustrated. If they wanted people to authentically connect with themselves and others, there would be people like me teaching your 10-year-old kids, hey kids, here's what you do to not care what people think. Here's what you do to connect with yourself. I'm going to show you some exercises that are going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but they're going to show you that actually you can feel uncomfortable. You can face the fear. You can get through it. And believe me, if you do some of these exercises, if you spend 5-10 minutes doing these exercises for the next week, a week from now, you're going to have way less social anxiety, and actually you'll start enjoying yourself, and you won't really care what people think about you. They could find people like me and put me in schools teaching the kids, but they're not. They're not, because they don't want that information out there. It's as simple as that. So I don't think it's random. I think the system is the way it is because people have designed it this way. So that's that question. The other,
yeah.
You can lead. There's another one you asked. I'm happy to go into.
Please.
And I'm guessing that would be, what can people do who have social anxiety, especially young people? And I would tell them the same thing I tell my clients who come on my courses, and I do social freedom trainings, and I get them very quickly from, what do people think, to within a few hours, absolutely not caring what people think, doing crazy stuff, talking to beautiful girls, doing all that kind of stuff. And again, it's something you're just not going to hear from anybody. But here's what it is. You need to purposefully find situations that are going to make you uncomfortable socially, and you need to do things where you will feel uncomfortable. Well, people will look at you funny. People will think you're weird, and they'll judge you. And you need to get into those situations. You need to feel that judgment. You need to feel that weirdness. You need to breathe into it, and you need to be okay with it. You need to recognize that uncomfortable feeling is not you. It feels like you're going to, oh my God, I'm going to die. Somebody's going to think I'm stupid. Yeah, somebody's going to think you're stupid. But it's not you that's going to die. It's not you that's going to be put through the ringer. It's your ego. You see, because on the deepest level, we are not these thoughts. Now, I don't want to get too spiritual woo-woo, but, I'm just, I've been down the rabbit hole pretty hardcore. So I'm speaking from some pretty crazy experiences I've had.
Yeah.
We are not our mind. We are not our body. We are the infinite soul consciousness that inhabits the body. The true self, the heart, the soul that we are, is not afraid of rejection. It is love. Our nature is love. And looking from that place, all beings are our brothers and sisters. We are actually love itself. That is the nature of our being. This voice that's in our head, the egoic consciousness, that's just a bunch of programs. That's just a bunch of ideas. I'm a man. I'm a woman. I'm smart. I'm rich. I'm poor. I'm black. I'm white. They're just ideas. They're just concepts in the mind. I'm popular. So here's some ones that will be taunting the kids, right? I'm popular. Well, I'm not popular. This person, if I do this, is this person going to like me or they're not going to like me? What are people going to think? What are people going to say about me? What's the teacher going to think if she finds blah, 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 blah? That's not you. It's just a bunch of thoughts. It's just, it's not who you are. It's just programming, right? Just the same program that says, oh, you're age 30, time to have some kids or save up for your retirement or, whatever. All the programs that we have, we're not even aware of them. They're just running because society just has all these ideas and we take them on. We take them on from our parents. It's just a bunch of programs running in our head. And most people don't challenge those programs, right? So all of these thoughts like, what if I do this and I'll be rejected? Someone's not going to like me, blah, 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 blah. If you don't want to be living in a prison of your own mind, you have to challenge that voice. You have to start separating the distance between the real you, the infinite being that's in a body, and your egoic consciousness mind, the mind that's just going and going and going. You have to make that separation. And if you don't, you'll always be trapped in your mind for the rest of your life. They should be teaching this to 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. Here's some basic meditation principles. You're the consciousness. Your voice is not the thing in your mind that's going is not actually you. And unless you separate those things, you will continue to suffer. And that's why most people in this world, 10-year-olds and 80-year-olds alike, are suffering because they actually identify themselves as this voice going on in their head, and it's not you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big advocate for meditation. No, not the opposite. Not medication, meditation. And I, the like woo-woo stuff, I dig a lot of that, and I think there's something really real to it. And I think that when you're saying like, you know, when you get to this age, you have to do this or follow the system, like these systems are in place for a reason. And there is something good and inherent about that. If it goes down, you know, it's like, well, that is good because biologically this is good. Like there is, but I think what you would be advocating, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think you'd be advocating that like, just question it. Like, it's not saying like, don't listen to society at all. It's just question it. And does that blend with you? Are you just following blindly? Is it like willful blindness, or are you just living life with your eyes open? Right? Like that's a big part of it. You know, kids are just like, well, I go to college because that's what you do. And I just do this because that's what you do. And you just kind of like, they're just following instead of questioning. You can question and then still do it. You can still end up working in a cubicle but just do it intentionally. Do it like, okay, I'm working in a cubicle for these years because it provides me with this kind of stuff that I really value. And like, that's much better for society. Even if it looked the same from the outside, if people were doing these motions more willfully and with more self-awareness, consciously, absolutely, then we'd be onto something that'd be much better on a deeper level than I think that it is. But another thing that I asked, that I know I threw like 9 questions at you, but how do you get the ball rolling? Because one of the things that I ask my students often is, can you name something that you were terrible at and then you worked hard, failed a bunch at, and then you eventually became proficient? Like not just decent, but like actually good at. And any kid that has that, whether it's playing, you know, the trumpet or the piano or the guitar, or learn, you know, jujitsu, or, you know, a specific sport or skateboarding or something like that. Once they've done that once with something, they know that the path has been blazed of you can be terrible at something and then become great at it. And that could be, you know, things socially too. A lot of times people who are the best at certain things started as some of the worst at certain things. They understand it and that they push through that. But how do you get the ball rolling? I have this sign behind me, they're on my podcast, that dragons hoard gold. I love that because it's what you desire most. That could be gold, that could be like the princess or whatever in these mythological tales. It's protected by the thing you fear most, which is the dragon, which is like a cat and a reptile and it breathes fire and all this kind of stuff. Like that is essentially a good metaphor for life. But how do you confront the dragon? Like that's like just willing to not run away initially. How do you spark that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the very first step I would say for anybody would be kind of linked to what you said there, is to acknowledge that you have overcome before, right? There's been something that you sucked at and you've overcome it. Could you speak English when you were 2? No, but by the time you were 7, you're pretty good at it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you've done it before, right? So nothing is insurmountable, you know. And as human beings, like we're really, really good at learning and adapting, and you know that's what we do. We're survivors.
I love that baby one though. So I love that baby metaphor of like, you know, when a kid tries to walk and falls over, they don't get like discouraged and say they're a failure. They just pick themselves back up. Like we could learn a lot from baby. Yeah. I love that.
It's no big deal. So recognize you've already done this before. And then the next important thing I'd say, just set the intention. Just set it. And the people don't do this. People just kind of go through life, but it's like set an intention and say, okay, this is important to me, and I'm resolving in this moment that I will improve in this area of my life. I'm going to take the steps necessary to change the circumstances, to acquire the skill set. And once you really set that intention, even just setting that intention with the universe, with whatever, with God, with yourself, it doesn't matter, whatever higher power, just go, this is something I'm going to get handled. That already energetically starts shifting things. You'd be amazed with just setting an intention does. I've seen miracles happen just when people made a decision. This is what's happening now in my life. Crazy. And the next step is very simple. Start taking baby steps and leaning gently into that discomfort of whatever it is. Like, listen, if you're overweight or you want to put on some muscle, you don't go to the gym and fucking come up next to Schwarzenegger and go, yeah, I'm gonna come in with you. No. You start baby steps. You might not even be able to go to the gym. You might trick yourself just to go to the gym. I have a friend who had a hack. You just go to the gym, hang out for a bit, just get in the habit of going to the gym, not even working out, and then coming home. And then eventually you start working out a little bit. Next thing you know, 6 months later, you're still addicted to the gym. If you don't go, you're going to feel terrible. You know what I'm saying? When you're really in it, you're just like, you can't even skip a day. So same thing with this. I wouldn't tell someone go do the most crazy social thing, but what about something very subtle? What about just, somebody's, so with my students, for example, one of the warm-up exercises, it can literally just be going outside and saying hello to 10 strangers. Just walk people on the street and say, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. That's all. And then after you do a bunch of those, the next day you might go around and say hello to people, but say a greeting that doesn't make any sense. So just, it could be the summer and you'd be going around going, Merry Christmas. Hey, happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. And people will look at you and go, okay, I don't know that's a bit weird, but good. And people will look at you a bit funny and you're just like, hey, did you get a good present? Merry Christmas. I love you. Happy birthday. You're just doing silly things like that. And then you take it to the next level. Next level, I might have you come up, or maybe you walk around one day just giving people compliments and just getting social. Maybe, what about going on a bus and high-fiving 10 people on the bus for no reason? Just, hey, give me a high five. Come on, give me a high five. Yeah, boom, boom, love you. Give me some love. If you can get to that point, well, the next day when I say, all right, we'll walk up to a Starbucks window, like a big glass window, you're outside looking through the window and there's people sitting there, packed Starbucks, everybody's drinking their coffee. And you come up and you put your forehead up against the glass and you just look totally confused and you just do this face.
Mm-hmm.
And you stand there with your mouth open, breathing on the glass with a little drool running down your chin. And you're just there for 5 minutes, just
to be like, just to mess with the
and
system a little bit.
And everyone's going to look at you and be like, is this guy retarded? Or what's this guy's problem?
Yeah.
And everyone's going to look at you and think you're weird. But guess what? By then you're like, well, it's kind of funny to me. I don't care. And guess what? You can do that. Well, then you can do the next. And then it just builds up progressively. And at some point you just go, I don't care what people think. I'm having a great time anyway. I just don't care. And then
you're not hurting anybody.
Who's getting hurt? People look at you and
right.
go, this guy's an idiot. Yeah, I'm an idiot. So what?
Right.
What are you going to do about it? I'm an idiot. Yeah. And what?
Yeah.
I'm still on the planet Earth. I deserve to be here. Yeah, I do stupid things sometimes. So what? I'm okay with it. And then next thing is somebody sitting on a bench and she's texting and I'll come up to her and I'll sit there and I'll just slowly start looking at her phone. And she'll look at me and I'll just look away. And then as she goes back to texting, I'll start looking at her phone again and she'll get a little bit annoyed and look at me. But after the second or third time, she'll laugh and realize I'm dicking around. I'll be like, yeah, I'm just messing around. We're just doing social freedom. What's your name anyway? And I'll end up getting going on a date with that girl because I'm just being a retard. And it just goes from there. And that's it. It's just pushing those little boundaries a little bit, And I've had clients that had such social anxiety, they couldn't do any. I had to take them baby steps. I had to walk down the street and just make eye contact. Like somebody would just look at them and just make eye contact for now. And then eventually just make eye contact and winking at people. That's for a day, looking at people just winking because they were at that place. But a few sessions later, they were free. They were walking up to people, starting conversations, doing whatever. So you just have to start. You just have to start anything. Just start doing something outside of your comfort zone. That's it.
Well, this is essentially like cognitive behavioral therapy. I mean, if someone's scared of riding an elevator, you don't just put them on an elevator. You show them a picture of an elevator and then they get a little nervous. And then you walk to an elevator, but don't go inside. Then you walk in and step right out. You take these steps. And this is it's almost like a playful way of doing that. It's just you're playing with this, but it's the same concept. What you're doing is, I joked around in the beginning about what makes you an expert because where are your credentials? But this is the same thing. You can learn. I heard a really cool conversation between Jocko Willink, who was a Navy SEAL commander, and Jordan Peterson, who was an academic college professor. And they came to the same conclusions about a lot of things in life. One from reading in a book and going to school a lot, and one from the battlefield. But they find the same thing. And I'm glad that you kind of put down the system of putting all the plaques on your walls and stuff like that, because that's one way to gain insight about the world and how to find success and understand things. But there's a lot of ways that you can learn this. And if it works, it works. And what you're doing is essentially cognitive behavioral therapy for people with social anxiety, but you're doing it in kind of a fun way. It's not, it takes away a little bit of the stigma of I have to go to a therapist for this. It's just go out and play, just have some fun, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm actually, a lot of my fans are putting pressure on me to finally finish my book because they know I'm writing it. So I am going to finish it up this year. And it's actually called How to Win Friends by Pissing People Off. Okay. Social Freedom as a Path to Liberation. And it's just about this topic. It's you can set yourself free by pushing your social boundaries. And another thing you said there's different ways, and I really agree with that. Everyone has their own path to happiness. Everyone's on their own unique journey, and it's just about being true to yourself. on that journey, regardless of what other people think you should be doing. It's your journey. It's your life. It's up to you. And that's the thing, when you get to social freedom and you start putting your feelings and your journey first, and you're expressing yourself authentically from a place of confidence, from courage rather than fear, it's like life opens up. Because when you say to the universe, okay, I'm taking chances, I'm pursuing my happiness, I'm being true to myself, the universe goes, okay, here's an opportunity for you to do that. And if you take that one, the universe goes, here's another opportunity. But if you keep saying, no, I'm afraid, what will people think? No, I'm just going to fit in. The universe goes, okay, then you're going to continue fitting in. It's like the universe, I actually believe this earth we're in is actually a hologram. I don't think this is base reality. I think it's a hologram. It's a simulation. There's a lot of science that's actually showing it is actually simulation, and our consciousness is running it. And so if that's true, and I've seen a lot of crazy things that suggest this, you're literally creating your own reality. Every single decision, every thought you have, you are creating your own reality. So just as easily as you can create a reality where you believe you can't talk to people and you have to play it safe and otherwise you're going to be in big trouble, cool, you can keep playing that game. Or you can shift to a totally new reality, which is the more I trust and the more I share and the more I'm authentic and the more chances I take and the more I push my boundaries, the more the universe will open up to me and give me more and more opportunities to become the greatest possible version of myself, to find more of who I am, to start expressing who I really am to the world. It's such a beautiful process, but you just got to take that first step. You have to make that decision that you're going to grow into who you really are. Oh, and one last point.
Yeah, please.
One last point. Yeah. I actually think that going by getting the plaques on the wall, getting degrees, all this kind of stuff, most people, and this is from working with hundreds of people personally, thousands of people digitally for over 10 years. A lot of the people who have these jobs, like, quite respectable jobs, doctor, lawyer, really big jobs, something like, my research is something like 50% of the people that have these type of jobs, including doctors, they're not doing the job because they like the job. 50% in my research, 50%, 1 out of 2 doctors isn't a doctor because they want to help people. They're a doctor because their parents were doctors and they wanted to make mommy and daddy proud, or because they wanted to have a respectable job. And if they have a good job and they make lots of money, they'll be able to attract a mate. 1 in 2.
I believe that.
Think about that for a second. That's just my personal research. Could be totally wrong. But even if it's 1 in 10, that's still a lot of people who are living lives of just inauthenticity, misery. So many people I meet, they're absolutely miserable because they're living somebody else's idea of success, somebody else's idea. But it has nothing to do with your idea of success. It has nothing to do with your idea of happiness. So what are we doing? How brainwashed are we that we're putting other people's ideas and living other people's lives for them? It's sad. It's terrible.
And it's oddly a safe route, even though it's very, you could be doing something very challenging, but it's still safe in that it's comfortable, maybe socially and things like that. I am naturally a very introverted person. I would be very different from my classroom because when you're teaching high school, you kind of got to be a dancing monkey a little bit. And then my wife, who is, has her own business and stuff and does a lot of social media marketing, was like, basically, you should do what you're doing in the classroom and put it out to social media and a podcast and things like that. And it was super uncomfortable for me. I mean, it's very, talking into my phone selfie style is really still, I've been doing it for like over a year. It's really uncomfortable for me, but I also get the chance to meet great people. I've expanded my classroom. So I have kids from literally all over the world. I have kids from like Spain and Iran, reach out to me. Hey, this video really helped me. And I'm being a teacher, but just expanding it. But what you're saying, it is scary. You've walked the walk. I've walked the walk to the degree of putting yourself out there and people just knocking you, making fun of you. Yeah, they do. But I believe that this is right for me. And I'm doing something. It's not like I'm not just not hurting people. I'm actually seem to be helping some people. Not everybody at all, but some people. So for people out there that say, well, I'm just an introvert, this isn't, something for me, maybe you're just telling yourself that narrative that you're an introvert and you're happier to not do this stuff. I don't know. Would you, if you go out and try it, you go out and try to just strike up conversations with the checkout at the grocery or something like that, will you feel good? Because as I've done that a little bit more and more, I'm 37 years old. And as I do that more and more and model that for my 2 young boys, just being friendly and striking up conversations with strangers, I feel pretty good afterwards. They feel pretty good afterwards. You walk out of the grocery store with a smile, and that was especially uncomfortable. But, again, you don't know really who you are until you try different things out and you go, oh, that's just not for me. I'll try this thing. Maybe that is for me. But yeah, one thing I also want to talk about is drugs. You mentioned alcohol.
I
Alcohol.
can give people a really quick hack just before we go on to the next topic. Just a really quick hack for somebody that this is unbelievable. It's so simple. I'm going to say it and you'll go, that's too easy to help people. It helps tons of people.
Okay.
If you're really introverted, same thing goes for if you have any idea in your head that really, really is limiting you. I had tons of clients come up to me. I'm too shy. I'm bald. Beautiful women. They're not going to like bald guys. They're not going to like Indian guys. I'm too short. All these ideas. And the hack I give them, and it's going to seem really obvious, and it's the greatest thing in the world. Whatever that thing is that you believe is really in the way of you being successful, bring that up in conversation first. So I would have really short guys walk up to beautiful blonde women and be like, hey, have you heard short guys are the best in bed? So someone who's really, really, whether it be anxious or is an introvert, just literally walk up to people and say, hi, I'm really introverted. And today's mission is just to say hi to one person, and I picked you. Hi. And that's it. And just literally walk up to people and say, hi, I'm really introverted. This is really hard for me. I just want to say hi because that's my homework for the day. People will be so understanding, so loving, you would not believe how people open up and how much love they have for somebody who's pushing their boundaries. You wouldn't believe it. So if you're really, really introverted, go and tell people how really introverted you are and watch what happens. Do that. Come up to 3 people a day. Start with one person a day and just come up and start coming. I guarantee you a week in, you'll be walking up to people and go, hey, what's up? I'm super introverted. What's your name? And they'll be like, no, you're not. And you'll be like, oh, I am. And they'll be like, you're not. In a week, You'll go from introverted to not really in a week. I've seen that for real. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to be willing to just take those little steps. Like we said, like you're not going to get out of where you're at unless you push the boundaries a little bit. One of the things that people use for that is drugs. And you mentioned alcohol. It's a social lubricant. It's liquid courage. So I can't talk to girls unless I'm drunk. Or I can't deal with the world and all the possible horrors unless I take my pills or something like that. That's a real thing. We're very big into medicating it and softening that jolting fear. I get it. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not telling you to get off your meds, but I think that there's something to this that what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on medicating to go through this process?
I am really, 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 really anti anything that lowers your consciousness and your vibration. And I'm really, really pro anything that raises your consciousness and vibration. And there's a very important distinction here. Alcohol is really, really not good for anybody, period. Humans aren't supposed to consume alcohol. That's my belief. It's a shortcut. It makes things a little bit easier temporarily, but it's just, why not deal with you're dealing with a symptom. Deal with the actual cause. Deal with your social anxiety. Because if you just get drunk, okay, now you need to get drunk to connect with people. You can't be getting drunk to connect with people all the time. It's not a solution. The solution is deal with the root. Go out there and actually face your fear and get over it. That's just how it works in our society. If something is bad for you and they'll tax it and they'll sell it to you, and that's fine. But if something can actually raise your consciousness and wake you up, such drugs such as acid or ayahuasca or San Pedro or any of these plant medicines that can lead to you having profound experiences, don't be doing that. No. We'll put you in jail for that. Alcohol, yeah, sure. Cigarettes definitely will kill you. Doesn't lead to any heightened awareness or any. Yeah, that's fine. Smoke away. So it's a really obvious pattern. If it can raise consciousness and help you improve your life in some way, it's illegal and they'll put you in jail. If it'll destroy you and they can make money off it, they're going to tax it. You can take that. That's the system we're in. That's where it's at right now. That's changing very quickly. I think people are waking up to it.
Psilocybin's getting legalized. I'm gonna do one on psychedelic drugs. I loved Michael Pollan's book and things like. That is changing. I mean, psilocybin's getting legalized. Recreational marijuana is legalized in a lot of places. MDMA and things like that are in like phase 3 trials. That's something.
You can change your life.
I'm not advocating drug use on here though, just from my sense, because I have high schoolers probably listening and stuff. But we should be conscious about what, not all drugs are the same. We know that. So what is this drug to be used for? How is it to be used? You know, I think even you, if you would be, you know, an advocate for certain mind expanding psychedelics, I think you would be also someone to say, like, don't just maybe do these at a party without some sort of goal in mind or some sort of guide or, you know, whatever it is. Like, these aren't to be taken lightly. Like drugs, I think that's probably where they all line up, is alcohol and prescription meds, and, you know, DMT or, you know, or whatever it is, should not be taken lightly. You're altering your reality and things like that, and we should do it intentionally, right? Would that be a good disclaimer, I guess?
That's the number one thing. Working with any type of like you generally don't want to take drugs to cover up symptoms, because it really doesn't work. So ever. But if you're going to work with drugs, everything should be done consciously, including mushrooms, MDMA, acid, any of the plant medicines. If you come with the intention to grow, to learn the truth of your nature, to connect with the divine, to connect with your higher self, you know, the nature of reality, all these things, that's very, very powerful. And you're doing it consciously, and there's an intention behind it, and that's great. But hey, let's get messed up on alcohol or pill or whatever. That's not healthy, and you're just escaping. You're escaping from reality rather than going into reality. And, you know, again, it's just, I'm very, very against the unconscious use of drugs, and very pro the conscious use of plant medicines that can be very healing and expanding. Yeah.
Yeah, and as scary as it is to dissolve your ego, which some of these drugs help with, and I think some of these practices that you're talking about, these just activities, you know, you basically destroy your ego, whether it's through mocking or through an experience or whatever it is. It is a very freeing thing, though. I mean, it's unbelievably freeing, because that ego of, like, you know, that sense of self, and that you have to protect with all these walls and stuff like that, it's a weight that you carry. So what we're talking about in this conversation, Sasha, is, like, for people listening, is like, there's steps to it, but it is freeing. And you know, I'm still, like, I have ego issues all the time, but it's something that I'm trying to work on myself. But it's a process. This isn't easy to do. This is very hard. It's why many people don't do it, but it is very freeing.
Yeah, it is very freeing, and it's just it's one of the most profound things you can do, and it changes lives. It really does. It's not that complicated. You're not the voice in your head. You're scared. You're scared of being judged. You're scared of what people are going to think. Set yourself free. Do things that are uncomfortable, and watch what happens. I'm telling you, I've taken people in a couple of hours on the streets just doing social freedom exercises. A couple of hours from totally terrified to totally liberated. I'm not even exaggerating. I've taken people from absolutely afraid to do anything to not to do anything for 2 hours. That's the power. That's the power of social freedom. That's the power of challenging your ego.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing I want to get to, and then I can wrap it up, is there is also an element that students have talked to me about, where there's a fear of being accused of sexual harassment when they're asking a girl out, or, you know, when they're you know, spitting game. And the part of the problem, I just listened to a Sam Harris podcast on this. Part of the problem with sexual harassment, or sexual assault, is there is not an objective definition. It's completely subjective. If Ryan Gosling does one thing and then Steve Buscemi does another, Steve Buscemi is sexually assaulting that girl. So it's very individual for that person. Does that girl, in this case, feel uncomfortable? And that's really tricky for young men, but all men, to, like, try to gauge, because you basically are trying to read body language and stuff like that, but that's not easy to do. One of the things that I advise my students is, I say, think of every interaction you have with a girl as if it's like she's writing a Yelp review. Go for 5 stars. So, you know, like the Aziz Ansari thing, where he was like, I thought the date went fine. She was like, no, it didn't. Is like, how conscious was he of, like, how is she doing? And I think it's very easy for us to get into our caveman brain of just like, oh, let's just, like, hump or whatever it is, as opposed to, like, being conscious, like you would if you're, you know, a restaurant, you have a customer and you're like, I got to get our Yelp rating up. Like, just be kind, be aware of what they're going through. Like, it makes you maybe more present, that even if it doesn't work out, that they're going to write a 5-star review. It's kind of just like a way that I kind of propose it. But what are your thoughts, especially if you do like dating training and stuff like that? How has this Me Too movement, which has a lot of benefits, it absolutely has a lot of benefits, but like many things like a cylinder, there are other sides to it. How have you seen this play out in what you do, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that's a real tricky one. And the example you gave with Ryan Gosling is a good one. You know, women will say, "Oh yeah, I want a guy who is going to be bold and take chances and who goes for what he wants," right? So they do. So if the girl is attracted to you, woman's attracted to you, and it's going really well, she wants you to kiss her. She doesn't want you to go, "Hey, would it be okay if I kiss you right now?" That would totally kill the vibe. And she's going to be like, "What's wrong with this guy? Can't he read the sign? Doesn't he know I just want him to kiss?" So there's that aspect of it. But at the same time, if a girl's like, "God, this isn't going so well. I really am not into this guy. I hope he doesn't try and kiss me." Then if you try and kiss, she's going to be like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
You're screwed. Yeah. So it's like you're damned if you do it and you're damned if you don't. So that level of calibration that we used to call it in the old PUA days, it's really about the calibration. And that's something that comes, that knowing, like this, like really knowing, like, okay, this girl really wants me to, she really likes me. She wants me to ask for a number. She wants me to kiss. All these things, that does come in time, and that becomes actually quite obvious later on. But in the earlier years, of course, I was clueless. I had no idea what was going on. There's so many women that were crazy about me. I could have dated them. I could have gotten them as my girlfriends. I didn't pull the trigger. I was scared. I wasn't sure. So I didn't do it. And for years, I would regret it. Like, oh my God, all I have to do is just be like, "Hey, do you want to go out with me?" And she would have been like, "Yeah." You know what I mean? So it's crazy. Yeah. So I would say, especially for younger people, if you're not sure, take the chance, but if you don't know, don't go for the kiss, don't go for anything crazy, but just be bold enough to say, "Hey, you know what? I like you. Let's get some ice cream." That's all it has to be. You'll never get in sexual harassment for saying, "Hey, you're really cool. Let's get some ice cream, or let's get a hot chocolate, or let's get a juice." Your worst case scenario is, "No, I don't want to get a juice with you." And you go, "Okay." That's it. That's the thing. You don't have to go. You don't have to do something great. You don't have to kiss her and make her. No, if a girl really likes you and there's an authentic connection, she's going to want to spend time with you. So all you have to do is have the courage to go, "Hey, let's hang out sometime." That's all you have to do. Just have the courage to say, "Let's go hang out." You don't even have to say, "I really like you." Just, "Hey, let's hang out sometime." And from there, once you really get that connection and you hang out with someone a couple of times, then it's obvious there's a connection. They keep responding to your text messages. They come out and hang out with you. So then something's going on. And once you get into that relationship, then the other parts are not that difficult. You know, you start holding hands, the kiss happens, you know, these things kind of flow from there. But initially, when you're meeting someone, you don't have to do any crazy stuff. Just have the courage to ask them to hang out. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, know the person you're talking to. Like, you know, if you're dating someone who is like, "I want you to ask before you ever touch me," you should know that that's the type of girl that she is. And there are girls like I said, everyone is different. So know who you're dealing with. But I think a lot of young people, and again, probably old people too, just don't talk about this stuff because it's uncomfortable. And again, it goes back to fear of coming off awkward and things like that. But have conversations, know who you're dating. Like, if you're going to get intimate with someone, know them. Like, sorry to sound like an old conservative, but like, you should know the people that you're being intimate with. And it's not, that just doesn't seem to be what's like cool nowadays. I don't know. I guess I'm old.
That's right. No, everybody, you know, it's a hookup culture, right? People look at all these apps, it's for hookup, but that's not where the real fun is. This is where I would have really say to the people out there, like, the real fun, the real depth. And believe me, I've been through it all. I've been polyamorous. I've slept with a lot of women. Let
me just set you up real quick, because I want to hear this. Is like, you know, because you did like the pickup, what is it, pickup artist, but like
pickup artistry,
like that kind of stuff. Where like, you know, like what it's like to, you know, date a lot and be intimate with a lot of people and stuff like that. So coming from a place of experience, you know, it matters for you to talk about, you know, hookup culture and stuff like that. Sorry to cut you off, but I just want to set that up for the audience. That like, it's not like you don't know this world. You know this world as well or better than anybody. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's been a big rabbit hole, and I've done all of it. I've done monogamy. I've done dating multiple people. I had 4 girlfriends at one time. You know, I've done it all, and there's nothing wrong. Like, if you meet somebody and you want to hook up with them and there's a connection there, great. You're part of life is this exploration. It's wonderful. But all I'm saying is the deeper, the real juiciness, the best sex you're going to have, the best intimacy you're going to have, the most joy you're ever going to feel in your heart isn't going to be from some random woman you met while you had a couple of beers in a club. It's not. It's going to be somebody who you really have a connection with. You hang out with them, you get to know them, you get to know their secrets, their story. They know yours. You trust them. You have a mutual trust, a respect. And in that, you go and you can go so much deeper emotionally and sexually. So the best sex I've had, it wasn't no random hookup. It was with the women that I loved that loved me. That's where the crazy stuff is. That's where the joy of life is, connecting with someone on that level. I'm not so hey, you meet somebody and you want to have a crazy fling? Have a crazy fling. That's life. But the real joy of relationship is going deep with people. That's where it's at. So I would just encourage you, don't jump into bed with someone right away, because oftentimes it'll turn into a hookup when it could have been something much more if you built a little trust and connection first. So give yourself that chance to go deep. Don't be afraid of the intimacy. So many of us, we're afraid of intimacy. We're afraid to say, I love you, or I really like you, or I really want to get to know you. Don't be afraid of it. When you go first and you're open with your heart and you say, hey, yeah, I like you. I'd like to hang out with you more. Let's not sleep together. Let's just hang out a bit and let's see what happens. Oh my God, the women are going to respect, men too, whoever you're talking to, they're going to respect you more. They're going to feel that you're authentic and you're looking for that deeper connection, and you're going to have really amazing relationships in your life. So I just encourage you to be open to taking your time and going a little bit deeper with people. That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And I think it's just funny to get that message of, from, like it's just true. It's kind of like, there's an element of that that's like, goes back to what like your grandma would say, which is like, get to know the lady before you do anything. There is an element of that that's like, she was right. So
hey, those older people, they do know some things.
Yeah, maybe we should pay attention to them in society.
Sometimes.
I think, just to like kind of wrap it up, when it comes to like social anxiety, I think that at the core of it, and this is a very like classic thing with addicts and stuff like that, is the pain of changing has to become less than the pain of staying the same. So if you have anxiety, which a lot of people do, I went on a forum for my Instagram, which I'm just growing, is like high school advice. And it was just one thing after another about anxiety. And it's like, wow, so this is big. So you have to make a decision. There are ways to overcome anxiety. There are absolutely ways without drugs to overcome anxiety, but it's difficult. It is really, really scary. It is really, really hard. I'm not minimizing it. I don't think you're minimizing it when you say like, just go up and do this stuff. I think you understand that walk. But you have to make a decision that either way, it's going to be painful. It's going to be painful to stay in this weighted, anxiety-ridden life. That's going to be painful. And it will be painful to put yourself out there to confront your fears. That's painful. You just like how we started this podcast, Sasha, is like you gotta, even if you look the same, at least make a conscious decision. You have decisions in this world. Make a decision on, I'm going to choose to live with this anxiety, or I'm going to choose to do what I need to do to get out of it. And as long as people listening, as long as you just make that choice, don't say that it's too hard to change. Well, then your anxiety is better than changing, and you're choosing to live in that anxiety. And I don't mean to be overly simplistic, and I don't have a bunch of degrees. I don't know all the details of how the brain works, but this seems to line up with everything I've read, people I've talked to, and the experts I've talked to and had on the show and stuff like that. That seems to be at the crux of this. So that's my 2 cents about it.
Yeah, dude, you're just saying choose your reality, consciously, just choose your life consciously. Don't just settle for it. Make a decision, okay? Recognize that you could change, and if you really don't want to change, go, okay, I'm choosing to stay the same. Cool, but just be aware of that. It's worth it. I have a spiritual podcast, and we go into this a lot, and it's one thing I want to bring up. There's a lot of healing to be done for all of us as human beings. Trauma is something that happens to everyone. And actually, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, it's a little bit dark, but they actually traumatize kids at birth purposefully. A lot of things that they do in hospitals are actually done specifically to create trauma. Have you heard of circumcision, for example?
I have. Yeah.
Let's not go down. It's brutal. If you come up to someone and go, hey, so female genital mutilation, what do you think? They'll go, terrible. What about male genital mutilation? Oh, that's fine. It's called circumcision. So there's so many things they do. all the way from the womb, the way they treat you in the hospital, and all the way up into adult life. Actually, we're all quite a bit traumatized, and so a lot of the anxiety actually comes from a lot of these experiences we've had that we haven't healed. So actually getting into healing, like really like reading books about healing, healing trauma. There's primal therapy out there. There's so many forms of healing. You may actually cure your social anxiety completely without doing any of those exercises by actually going and doing the healing work. But again, our society doesn't say, hey, you can actually heal your trauma and your emotional stuff and whatever, and you can get healthy. It doesn't say that. It says take these pills and you'll be fine.
Right.
Well, again, that's another choice, taking the pill, or do you actually want to do the healing work? And so I talk about some of these modalities in my podcast, and I've had some pretty amazing healers on there for the people who want to learn a bit more about that. But so much out there, more than the information that we're given, so much more. And it's really worth going out there and finding what works for you.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, trauma and suffering is unavoidable in this life. I mean, yeah, from the time that you're a baby all the way up through life, like you're going to suffer. So the stronger you are, you don't become less afraid, you become braver, is a quote I really like. Jordan Peterson, I think, is like this, you're going to go through this. So let's confront it. Let's be aware. Oh, I did go through this. I did go through that. And then you become stronger in the ways that you need to. Sasha, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I really appreciate it, man. Where can people find you? Please plug away, talk about the summit and things like that.
Yeah. So I've got I got a lot going on. So Infinite Man Summit is a really great event. We do 1 or 2 of those a year. Guys come together and we just help them level their lives up, get it all, get the amazing relationship, the business that you want, find your purpose in life, all of that good stuff. It's beautiful. So many amazing guys come. We got one coming up in California this October in 2019. So that's easy to find if you look for it. And then I've got a spiritual podcast. It's www.woke.as. And yeah, it's just about waking up out of this dream, about loving ourselves more, about healing. So I just interview people that are on the road to spiritual enlightenment.
Did you say woke? WOKE?
Yeah, woke.as. Yeah.
I just had a whole podcast on justice what is it, like social justice, I'm sorry, and like critical race theory and stuff like that. That's a different kind of woke, I think.
It is. I started this podcast in 2016 because I just thought it was funny. It's like woke, the Woke as Fuck podcast. That's the name.
Yeah. And that's funny because woke is a totally different thing now.
I know they're trying to take over a term that I started using before about consciousness. For me, it was consciousness. I was going to call it the Awaken podcast, and I just
makes a lot more sense.
I may have to rebrand it. I don't know, but it's good stuff. And then if you find me, I also do stand-up comedy. I started actually. This might be interesting for your people. Yeah. I started doing something called comedy therapy, which I actually show people how to find the humor in the traumatic events in their life, and actually to be able to tell the story in a fun way. And it's actually really, really, really healing. And I've been doing these around the world, and they're kind of growing, and people seem to love it. So my real name is Alex Lazarev, and if you Google my real name or just Alex the Comic, you'll find comedy therapy. And and I'll be doing stand-up comedy also. The old school way, just telling jokes and stuff, probably next year. So you can find me and just see all the stuff.
How do they,
I love helping people.
Yeah. So wait, Alex, just so they can Google you, how do you spell your last name?
It's LASAREV. So Alex Lazarev. That's my normal name.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you for doing this. I think we got to a lot of really important stuff for teachers out there, for young people out there, for whoever's listening out there, about just being aware. Maybe we just, could spark something small. So, Sasha, Alex, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, man.
Been a pleasure. You're doing good stuff.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
I love it.
All right. Good. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.